and welcome, whoa, steady on my feet, hey, to part 4. Yes, this is part 4 of the SY85 restoration. But before we get going, normal parish notices. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why don't you go and press the subscribe button? If you want to be notified when I put new content like this up on the channel, hit the bell icon. The channel is funded by me. If you want to help in the production of videos and content for the channel, please support me over on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/The Music Tech Guy. And somewhere down here will be that elusive address. Now, we're still in lockdown, so it is, I think the message has now changed. It's now stay alert, stay safe, wash the hands until Boris tells us not to. So, now on to the main part of the video. So, I've been trying to do this for about 2 weeks, actually. It's taken me 2 weeks to get the new bits in. So, I have now received the new disk drive, but I'm not going to put the disk drive in quite yet, because what I thought I'd do is I'd do the battery replacement first, because I thought it was a bit pointless, given that I have to disconnect. I think I have to disconnect the disk drive anyway to get the battery out, so I might as well do the battery bit first and then disconnect the disk drive and put the new drive in. There is some sort of logic about doing part 4 before I do part 3A. Well, I think there's some logic anyway, but we'll just see. So, I'll get my little screwdriver out and we'll refer to the overhead camera. And yes, we can see. So, the battery on the SY85 is actually there, okay? And it's kind of sort of shielded by this. It's on the main motherboard, which is this area here. And it's also soldered tagged to the board. Okay, so what I have done, and I will find out which section of my bits box they've gone into. It's here. Yeah. Okay, so what I have acquired is these things here. Okay, so these are battery holders. Okay, and the reason why I've acquired these is because here it is, which I've actually taken out the packet to make sure it fits. The 2450 coin cell is actually thicker and deeper than the CR 2032 battery that you would normally put in a synthesizer. So it needs a different holder. So it took a couple of weeks for these to arrive because they ended up having to come from China. And these are actually, I'm not sure whether that sort of comes up on camera very well. But the distance between there and there, which are the 2 pins on this, is 20 millimeters, which is the distance between there and there on the board of the SY85. So with a bit of luck, this should go smoothly. Right, so in order to get this out, because I'm going to have to take it out, we first of all need to work out how to undo it. And the first thing we need to do is unconnect all these ribbon cables that are currently along the edge of this, including what I said is the ribbon cable for the disk drive. So the way I normally do this is one of 2 ways. Good pair of pliers and a good pair of needle nose pliers. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to effectively exert pressure evenly so it comes up. So I'm going to start at this end where I should be able to pull that cable out like so. This one should come out just like that. And I'm going to assume, actually, I don't know whether this is coming across on the camera, but there are some red marks on here, which looks like somebody's already had this board to pieces. But we'll go with the next one. And I say even pressure. Just like that. Now these cables will only go back in one way because of the way the socket is designed. So that's it, just like that. And then we come on to these. These are a little bit more delicate, but you still operate the same technique, which is even pressure. Now, to work on this end, just like that, comes out. Now, the thing about these, and again, hopefully this is kind of coming out on the video, is the fact that these actually have a very fine end bit. So you don't want to put the pliers all the way over the enclosure. You want to just grab that top piece, like, oops. Fingers and thumbs today. Just like that. And what I am going to do actually is I've got an indelible marker, so I'll be right back. Right, not that that's probably going to do much help, but it was just sort of something to give me an idea, because they theoretically should all be slightly different connectors. 2 and 3. Move on to this one. And this one here. So this one, again, is very delicate. So we just need to pull this up. Or do we? Need to kind of have a think about this one. Okay, I've moved the camera in because this one is tricky. So what I think we need to do with this one is we need to lift the two side pieces of this connector up. Okay, so it is raised like so. Once you do that, then you should be able to gently, and I mean gently, pull that out and move that to one side. So that's all the connectors done. And I'm going to leave the camera in this position now. Okay, so now we get on to screws. Okay, there are screws in the following locations. There's one there, 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 and there's one there. So, first thing we need to do is find the appropriate head for taking these screws out. I suspect it's going to be one of those, so let's try that. Fits nicely. Right, need to swap to a different screwdriver. Right, now to get this board out, what we do is you lift it and slide it. And if you've disconnected everything, it should just come out like that. Now we move over onto the other workbench. So I have invested in a different soldering iron. This is a solder sucker soldering iron, and it's the first time it's been on, hence the reason why it's smoking a bit, because it's the first time it's been on. The whole idea of this is that effectively the tip round the nozzle heats up, and it has a solder sucker combined, unlike my old one, which was the solder sucker was like that. You press the button, there you go, anyway, like that. This one, it's all included as one piece. Press the button at the top there, pops up. Okay, but as I say, it's all rather brand new, so it's sort of smoking a bit, so don't worry about the fact that it's smoking. It's all the newness burning off of it. So let's just pop that down there for the second. Now, this is the battery, and if we turn the board over very gently, this is the three supports for the battery. If we look at the new casing, it goes on just like that, just over those ports. So let me move some bits around so I can bring this closer to the camera. So these are 1, 2, 3 other things we need to desolder, and if I hold that up, it's very difficult to see actually, but the two legs from this are 20mm apart and will fit across the two legs that I'm going to desolder. And the third leg, which is this one here, we're not going to use anymore because that's effectively just a holding pin. So I'm just going to pop that down back over there. I'm going to turn the board over again so it's lying flat on my workspace. Now, I paused the video because I just needed to check something. Now, I lift the board up to the camera again. If you look over here, you'll see a jumper. Hopefully you can see the jumper there. Get the lights right. And it's very conjecturous, this one, but what you're meant to do is you're meant to take that jumper out while you replace the battery. So, take the jumper out, you get hold of a pair of pliers, and then you very carefully lift it, and put that back on like so. So that's effectively disconnected the battery from the circuit. That's what that jumper does. And then what we need to do is we then need to take the battery out of the board. So we're going to desolder these 3 pins that I identified a little while back. Hopefully my soldering iron is now up to speed. And what you should do is you just hold the soldering iron over the thing. And what I'm doing is just very lightly applying pressure to the pin or the battery casing. So that's the desoldering done. There is the battery hole. We're going to use these pins, these 2 pins to connect it back. So the new battery holder will go across there. Hopefully that's all visible on camera. So having a look at this, these 2 holes, this one in particular, hasn't come out quite clean, so I just need to clean that out. And I'm going to do that with a piece of pipe cleaner, or pipe, one of these things. There you go. Very thin, just heat it up and hopefully solder. So I've just elevated the board slightly off the mat. And now we're going to see if we can just melt the solder. That now looks clean. So I'll put that back in there for a sec. Now we're ready to install the new battery holder. So the way this works is that the middle section there, so if I pull this to camera, that bit there is the negative and that bit there is the positive, which lines up with that bit there, which is the negative, that bit there, which is the positive. So we need to put our battery holder in. Okay, so off camera I've had to do a bit of sweating because there was something stuck in the hole, so I've kind of attached the battery holder now to the board, and on the flip side it's come through there, so I just need to solder these 2 pieces in and this battery holder is in place. So we put the board over like so. What I need is something solid there just to hold that down. Now, because of the problems I've been having, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use some of this stuff, which is flux, which would make the solder flow very easily. So you just pop it on both sides. You get hold of take my glasses off as well before I do this. Then we have new battery holder soldered in place. Let's get one of these. Now, assembly is the reverse of disassembly, but just before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this area where the flux is, just to clean the residue off. Before I put it back together, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a continuity test. So I've got my continuity tester up here, which I'll switch on. Boom, boom. Let's just make sure that it's making a noise. Is that one? It is indeed. I haven't got my voltmeter here, so I just want to make sure that this is. That's good. And that's good as well. So that just makes sure that the soldered battery ports are now connected correctly. So I've got continuity between the two negatives, and I've got continuity between the two positives. And it's now been cleaned, so all the flux has been removed. Battery can slide into there when we're ready. Next thing to do is put it back in the keyboard, which means going back this way. So the way we get this back in is we slide it in the way we slid it out. And you'll notice at this point I purposely haven't put the battery back in yet. It's better. Right, so screwdriver, and let's put the first screws in. Right, so the board is now firmly back in place. Next job is to reconnect all the connectors. So we'll start with the connectors at this end of the board. And you just need to line them up, like so. Push them home. Then we've got these two connectors, which I moved out of the way. So if you look very carefully at the connector, there's one with 4 holes, and there's one with 5. Now that's the one with 5, so that one needs to go in there. Just push it home. And then this one needs to come in that way as well. You can tell which way around they need to go because there are actually lips on the connector. And then these two connectors need to go into this holding piece, like so. Just like that. Then we come to this connector, and we need to be very careful with this connector because it's just standard wires, And like as we took this connector out, what we need to do is just need to pull the sides up with a screwdriver just to get underneath the edges like that. So it makes the connector loose. Then we loop the connector over and again take my glasses off of this. So make sure that all the wires go nice and neatly into the hole, and then we press the sides down. And that's that one seated. This one is standard ribbon connector. So again, you can only put this on one way. It goes in like so. This one again need to be a bit more careful with, but it is just a case of lining it up and pushing it home. Middle one is the same. That's it. And then this last one is also the same. You just need to apply an even amount of pressure to it to make sure it is then properly seated. Next one is this ribbon cable. It needs to sit there. In actual fact, what I'm going to do is I'll put this ribbon cable back in like so, and then I'll reattach the disk drive, which is this cable at the end. Just like that. And that one goes in there. Just like that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to release the pressure on the board. Like so. So I can lift it slightly because this cable feels like it wants to be pushed. Just like that, as they say. Okay, that's all those seated. All those seated. Now we're ready to put the battery in. So here's my battery in a previously opened thing. So remember the battery, if you look at a battery, the back side is plus, flat side is minus. So there you go. That's the plus side, that's the minus side. And this coin cell battery pops in just like that. So when you need to take the battery out, next time it needs changing, you just get your screwdriver and you push that back like so, and up pops the battery. Now the last piece we need to do here, if I can find my glasses again, is we need to reset this jumper, which is the jumper I disconnected when we had the board off. So I'll get my needle nose pliers and I will just pull that up like so. And then we just place it back on the board, just like that. And that is the battery being replaced. So I'm not going to do a video, I'm not going to carry on with the video and put it all back together because I'm going to do the disk drive next as part 3A.